Hi guys! Today is a new cake basics episode. I know it's been a while since the last one. I've wanted to make this one before I go into making some new videos, so I had to hold it back a little bit for you. So today I'm gonna go through the basic cake decorating equipment and cake baking and decorating equipment, which I think are really great if you're into decorating cakes. They're helpful. You don't have to have all of these to make cakes, but they make your life a lot easier. And I will tell you how and why today. Before I go into telling you about all the equipment, I would want to share some really exciting news with you. I'm starting cake classes, online cake classes over on my website, which means you can now join me on an online private cake class, and we would be baking with you through a video connection. I would show you everything from baking the cake to decorating the cake. So if you're into something like that, if you would want to learn in detail how to always achieve a perfect cake, then I will link it for you here. You can read more about that over on my website. And now let me tell you about the cake equipment. So, because when we start making a cake, the first thing we need is something to mix the batter and mix the cream and then mix the icing or the buttercream for the cake. So the first thing you would need is a mixer. I have a standing mixer, and I recommend a standing mixer, an investment into a standing mixer if you make cakes on a regular basis. If you make cakes just once in a while, like once in a couple of months, then yes, it's not necessary. You can also use a regular hand mixer and it would also work. But this thing just makes your life so much easier. So if you're a regular baker, then it's worthwhile investing in one. Then the next thing, so we've mixed the batter and we want to bake the cake. So here we come to the cake rings, which are many, or the cake spooky. So the cake rings or the baking tins. I have all different kinds. So I have those that are without a openable bottom, so whole baking tins. Then I have those that have a bottom which comes off, and then I also have these cake rings which are adjustable, so you can change the size. I actually bought these only for filling cakes, and I've recently found that they're also really great for baking the cake base. You can make the bottom for this kind of cake ring from parchment paper, and because you can adjust it to any size that you need, it's perfect. You don't need to invest in 10 different sized cake tins, but you can just buy one cake ring which will be perfect for both baking the cake and filling the cake. So something worth mentioning, because I myself have spent a lot of money on different kind of cake tins, and now I mainly use just these. And also, just shortly, I would like to mention that you need some good sieves for baking. So you want to always sift your flour, as you have seen from my videos probably many times. I always sift in the dry ingredients, and also these come handy if you're making some jam, for example, from raspberries and you want to remove the seeds. These come handy. So I just realized we should have started with something else. I also have a kitchen scale here. I know when you go around the world, everyone has their own measures. So a kitchen scale is something really great, because usually these scales, they have different measures. So they have the grams, they have oz measures, they have milliliters, everything on them. And it also ensures that your baked goods come out exactly like in the recipe. You might already know that my recipes always use grams. That's because we use grams here in Europe. But some of the countries like Finland, where I come from, also use different kind of measurements, like the American cup. And there is a problem with those measurements, because you can never get the exact amount like the person who was writing the recipe. So there's always a chance for an error, which will also result that your bake doesn't bake through perfectly. So I suggest you use recipes that have grams or ozes or whatever, which is measured on a scale, and invest in a scale. They're really cheap. You probably can get one from 5 to 10 euros, same like 5 to 10 dollars probably, and they last long, and they're really worth the investment. Also, they are recipes that you cannot get perfect without a scale, so invest in a scale. Now, this is not a must, but I really love using this kind of cake cutter, or a cake base cutter. No, not sure how it's called, but you can cut really even cake layers with this kind of cutter. You can always use a knife, or you can always bake the cake layers separately. Then you don't need to do any cutting, or you can cut using a knife, but with this one you always get straight cake layers. So with a knife, if you don't cut straight, then it's not straight, but this helps you to cut them straight. So I'm going to include this as well, because I really love to use it. And then we are going to move into decorating the cake. So once you've baked the cake and you want to start decorating the cake, these are the equipment that, well, you don't necessarily need, but that I use. I've noticed along the way that there are some things that just make your life so much easier. I've been making cakes for over 4 years now, and I'm a kind of saver when it comes to anything. I don't want to invest a lot of money into things that I don't think are necessary, but I've learned along the way that some of these things make your life so much easier. So here I have some cake boards, and you can see there's a cake here at the background. It's also placed on this kind of big cake board. So you need one cake board, which is going to be the beautiful one on which you're going to serve the cake. But what you don't see is that there's also a second cake board, which is the size of the cake or just a little bit smaller. So if you cannot get exactly the size of your cake, then you can use slightly smaller cake board, which is just under the cake. What it does is you can decorate the cake on the board, and then when you're lifting the cake from a cake lifter, you can get the cake with this kind of a spatula, easily lift it without actually ruining the cake itself, and lift it onto the second cake board. So this is something I just recently discovered, and I always decorated my cakes really nicely on the cake lifter, and then when I started lifting them, it was completely ruined. The bottom was always looking really ugly, and I had to redo the bottom then on the cake board, and then you have to clean the cake board, which can be really hard with some cake boards. They get ruined, or you cannot really clean them nicely. So this is a really great thing, really something that I do always now since I discovered that, and I find it great because your cake comes out clean and is perfectly decorated. So you might need a little bit of retouching on the bottom, but really little when you use 2 cake boards. And like I mentioned already, cake lifter. So this thing is for when you decorate a cake. You want to put your cake board here and you do all the decoration here. You can use this to place your cake in the fridge, so it comes in really handy in that. And when you're decorating the cake, you need a cake turntable so that you can do the decorating easier and faster. And to get straight and smooth edges, this is really a key kind of factor. And also you can get them fairly cheap. I will link all the details for all the things that I've mentioned here for you in the description box, so you can check them out. But what I wanted to show you is what you do. You take the cake turntable, you place the cake lifter on it, then you have your board, and then you have your cake ring. So you've decorated your cake, then you've removed the cake ring, and you're ready to, you've filled your cake. You've removed the cake ring and you want to start decorating the cake. So then you need 2 spatulas. There is one which is straight and it's used to decorate the sides. And then there's an offset spatula which you use to smoothen the top. Oh, sorry, itchy nose. So for the top you want to use this one, because when you use a straight spatula you can end up in a situation where you ruin some of the cake by touching the side of the cake with the wooden part. But if you use this one, you can see that will never happen. So you need 2 kinds of spatulas, and then you have your crumb coat. You've coated your cake with the buttercream. I did decorate my cakes with only this spatula until like a long time, well, for a very long time, and I thought they were straight, they were looking good. I was happy. But then I wanted to try out something called a cake scraper. I have 2 different ones. One is for very tall cakes, and then one is that I use the most because my cakes are usually about 15 centimeter tall, and this is what I need. So this one comes handy when you start decorating or coating the cake with the buttercream. So as I said, you can use the spatula, but you cannot get the cake as smooth and as straight as with this, because you run it along the cake lifter like this. I cannot show it perfectly for you now, but you turn the cake on a turntable and you run the cake scraper along the cake, and you get smooth edges really easily. Like you can see on this cake, it's really straight and smooth. I will show it to you a bit closer in a bit, but that's how you can do that very easily with the cake scraper. So once I invested in this thing, I was so happy. I couldn't believe how much time it saved me, and I couldn't believe myself that I didn't want to invest in it for so long. And they're very cheap. So I'm gonna link those also for you down below. And then the very last things, not a must, but if you want to add some ruffle things like this on your cakes, or you want to pipe some cupcakes, or I don't know, if you want to do some piping. You need some good piping bags. I've been using this brand for quite some time now. I will link it for you below. Why I love using them is, as you can see, these piping bags are pretty big, and they are really, how do I say, the material is not soft. So I had experience with other piping bags, cheap ones, that when you pipe really something really thick like a ganache, for example macaroons, the piping bags just burst. Never had that with these piping bags. So if you want to have a look, then I will link that as well below. So then I have 3 of my favorite nozzles here. You can buy any that you like, there are tons, but I wanted to show you just a few of the ones that I like. So I have a French star nozzle, I think that's what it's called, then a closed star nozzle, and I'm not sure if this is also closed star nozzle, but I will link all of the information below for you, so you can check out these nozzles as well. I like to use these because they are perfect for cakes, they're perfect for cupcakes. You can pipe different kind of swirls with these, and these are the ones that I use mostly. So I've shown you everything. So to make this kind of a cake, I usually use all of the equipment that I described to you. And also, if you would like to learn how to make this kind of a cake, again, I would like to remind you about my cake classes. The information is up there in the cards, and also I will link it below in the description box, so you can check out the website and learn more about that as well. I hope you found this video helpful. I have been gathering this information for all of the equipment along like the last 4 years, and I've also been buying so much. So I have been using all of that I mentioned mainly for decorating cakes, and I've learned that those equipment have really helped me to bring my cake game to where it is now. I know there are a lot more, and I do use other as well, but I think these are the key things for cake decorating. But if you want to mention something, or if you have any questions or anything, you can always ask me in the comments below, and I will be more than happy to help you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more cake basics videos, then don't forget that thumbs up so I know you like these videos, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, so you don't miss those new coming videos. Thank you for watching my video. Bye bye until next time.